Hello, my name is Darian Chambers, and this brief overview will be for Module 3 for strategic planning. The topic that I want to briefly discuss and go over is to address the issue of the challenges that, financially disturbed universities as well as students face on a day-to-day basis, and some of the opinions that I have that I had to go through and tackle myself through my journey through my academic career, as well as certain things that I've seen that I feel would help, as well as some opinions that I received from other people when I was going through my journey, and that I would like to instill in some of the universities. So, you know, individuals who are in financial destitute, as far as students as well as universities, sometimes it goes hand in hand. You have some universities that struggle financially, and then you have a lot of students who struggle financially as well. And I've been in a position where I've attended a university that struggled, financially, and was almost, shut down. And I've also attended a university where, there was the student population wasn't as large as, a state university. I went to a private college at one point, and a lot of the students that went there were individuals who were struggling financially just because of the cost of tuition, even after scholarships and things like that. But one of the main things that I saw that was big was the university's enrollment rate was pretty low, and this was just due to lack of. And when I say lack of, I mean lack of facilities, lack of the campus being, appealing, and just lack of, I believe, teacher to student like morale rate. And when the student goes to school, you have to appeal to a lot of various and different types of personalities. Some people are on sports teams, some people aren't. Some people are there to strictly study and focus on their, their academic careers. And, some people are there, unfortunately, just to have fun. So it's a lot of, different things that you have to kind of sell at that university to have people enroll. And if you don't meet the needs of, everyone, or you only meet the needs of a certain individual or a certain group, then unfortunately, that system is going to crash. And once that crashes, enrollment rates drop. You have to raise tuition. Once you raise tuition, that's not appealing to anybody. So they will search, their other options to go to different schools that, meet their financial needs and different things like that. So I know when I was in my undergrad journey, I saw this a lot. And it was a difficult situation for a lot of people. A lot of people dropped out. A lot of people, couldn't afford to finish. The financial institution, had to unfortunately lay a lot of staff off due to, them wanting to make the school more appealing, and they needed to save money. So they had budget cuts and, cut salaries for professors, and, got rid of a lot of individuals. So that way they can build up the campus and do different things like that. Do I feel that it was necessary, and there were other ways to go about it? Absolutely. And when I ended up, going to, after I graduated and I went to a different university to receive my master's degree, what I noticed was, this was during the time of COVID. And what I found out was that it was a lot easier. Well, it was right before COVID happened. And what I found out was that, and what a lot of people were doing as far as the university goes, is they used a buddy system. And that would be, I mean, it sounds weird at first, but a lot of the professors that I saw who taught the same courses started to, instead of teaching online and instead of teaching multiple courses throughout the day of the same subject, what they began to do was, and I think is a great idea, was to basically put the classrooms together and shorten the day of how many classes they actually taught. So let's say a professor was teaching, 4 or 5 classes a day. Instead, they would meet up with another teacher at the university who taught this, same exact subject. They would go over their criteria, as far as what they were going over and what they were going to be teaching, and they would put the classrooms together. This opened up doors for a lot of students who were struggling, who did have to have off-campus jobs and different things like that. And it opened them up for the rest of the day to ask questions, and it gave the teachers and professors, autonomy to be there more for their students instead of being bogged down and having, to spend all day teaching these courses. They just made it one huge lecture between two individual teachers. And sometimes one professor would walk around and answer questions, during the lectures and different things like that. And it worked. It helped a lot during the time that I saw it. And when things started to kind of go back to normal, like after COVID, somewhat, they tried to go back to the old way of how they did things, which was, more classes, teach more classes and kind of do that. And what they saw was the enrollment rate began to go back down again, and they couldn't understand it. And it was simply due to the disconnect from teacher to student. So, financially, as students who are already struggling, who had off-campus jobs and were trying to find a way and make a way, and the university struggling as well, due to enrollment and having to make budget cuts and different things like that. When the classes were put together, and it opened up more time and more flexibility for both, professors and students to get their questions answered, and teachers and professors to feel like they were not being overloaded with work, and they feel like they had, each other's backs and things like that. The morale was boosted more, and ultimately it helped more. And that's what I would like to see more. And like I said, this is something that I saw at, the university I attended during, that time, a difficult time for everybody, but it worked. It worked very, very well for everybody. And it was an easier way for people who were struggling financially, who couldn't, afford books. And yes, there's options to, get free books, but sometimes that doesn't always work for everyone. And it became a time where, the professors were able to see what was working and what students, what was the easier way for students to acquire the books that they needed. And they were able to figure out what books were, least expensive and things like that. Like, they took a poll in class as far as to which books and things like that would be easier to get and which ones would be free and which ones weren't. And ultimately what ended up happening was the teachers and my professors actually taught out of free books and actually passed them out to the class, and gave us the link to download them and just different things like that. And that helped a whole lot. And I know going into the course at first, I actually saved money up to make sure that I was able to, be able to afford the books that they originally asked that they required for the courses. And, these were I was taking business courses at the time, and the books were, $400 to $500 a piece. And it was just a ridiculous amount of money. And what ended up happening was they took a poll in the class and ended up changing their, curriculum to fit the needs of the class. And the only reason why they found that out was because of how the classes were pushed together, morphed together, and, everyone doing a group think and a brainstorm as to which textbooks we were going to use and which ones we could afford, which ones we couldn't afford. So I thought it was a great idea. I had never seen anything like that out of all of the years I've been in school. I've never seen anything like that. And it helped a whole lot. Even the morale in class was boosted, um, and it helped and it went a long way. So even though it's not a great answer to helping financially like forever, but that's a big chunk. Certain costs in school is can be changed and helped, and I think the cost of books, certain meals, especially through state funding and government funding, and it's always cut each year. And the little things that professors can do, they do a lot, and do sometimes I feel like they do too much. But the little things that can be controlled like that go a long way, and it'll ultimately help and help your students stand behind you. So just the things that you can control, as a professor and as just a member of faculty, like those two professors did for me and my classmates, was great. And I believe out of the 150 students that they had at that point in time that were like in those classes, I believe like only two or three people ended up dropping out of the classes, which is a crazy statistic. Only three people left, and ultimately that's what I would love to see and see moving forward, and see a lot of people do. So, thank you so much for listening.